Hey folks, today we're going to see a demo of the Propel platform powered by Snowflake. And we have Nico here to do it. Nico, thanks for joining me in the studio.
Thank you, Daniel. Very excited to show you a demo of Propel's data API platform to build customer-facing analytics.
Fantastic. Let's dive in.
We're going to start with this. So Propelify is our demo app. It's an e-commerce theme, and this is the skeleton of the app. And what you're looking at here is a demo app built in Next.js. Plain vanilla. Our front-end engineer built this in like a day and a half. This is not the hard part, right? The hard part is that it doesn't have data, right? We see that all the charts are empty, right? The data is here. The data is in Snowflake, right? So you see our tables that are landing here in their relational state, the raw tables. We do a transformation to create this Propelify sales analytics. We do all the transformations in Snowflake. And this creates this wide table that is perfect for analytical use cases. And what we're going to do with Propel is that we're going to operationalize this table, put an API on top, and integrate it with our app in just a couple of minutes. So this is Propel. Here we show you the number of queries. All of the metrics and all the analytics that you see here in Propel are powered by Propel and Snowflake. We're going to go ahead and we've got one Snowflake instance created. We're going to go ahead and create a data source, show you how easy it is. And when we connect to Snowflake, we're leveraging a lot of the Snowflake primitives. We're leveraging the stages, the tasks, the streams. So what's doing here, Propel is going through and checking that all the permissions are correct and verifying that we can do everything that we need. So here we're good to go. We click next. We see, OK, we have access to these two. This is the table of interest, and we're done. Next, we're going to create a data pool. And the data pool is this high-speed storage tier that's a mirror of the table. When we create a data pool, first we choose our Snowflake connection, and we're going to call this sales, and we choose a table, right? You can decide what columns you bring. Maybe you need all the columns in your customer-facing application. Maybe you don't, right? So if we say, OK, we want to bring everything except email, because we don't need email for the analytical use case. You have to give it the primary timestamp of the table and the tenant ID. We use the tenant ID to enforce multi-tenant access control. In this case, it's going to be the merchant ID, and we're good to go. This will kick off a process that hydrates the cache. Here we've got one that is already hydrated. And that's the extent of kind of like data connection that you need to do. From there, this is more of the product work. We come here and say, OK, what are the metrics that we want to expose in our application? And by adding that semantic layer of the metrics, we ensure that all around your application, you're using the same definition. So I'm going to show you how we create, imagine like a sales metric based on our data pool. We're going to do a sum of total price. And this is where like the nuance of the data comes in, right? So let's imagine that only orders with status equals shipped count as sales, right? You want that in one place, not in 25 different places in your application. Then we choose what are those. This table has 48 different columns. We don't want to expose them all to our app. So we choose which dimensions we want to expose. So we want to do channel, device type, status, name, and category, right? So we can start with those. And you're good to go. Next, we go to the playground. This is a developer tool to help you build API requests. And you will notice that the APIs are opinionated APIs for analytical workloads. So we have a time series API, a counter API, a leaderboard API, where this is the GraphQL request and the variables. This is the visualization. This is the actual API response. And you can imagine how a front-end engineer can just
Yeah.
take this JSON and run with it.
This playground really seems like incredibly useful for the developers that are integrating this into their front-end application.
Totally.
Yeah.
And it's also really useful for the product managers, because you can iterate here and really figure out what's the visualization that I want in my application before like even involving engineers and writing a bunch of code. Like you can really say, okay, no, we want to show the last 30 days, or we really want to show the last 90. And that's kind of more what we want to show in our app.
Now, I see that you're using GraphQL.
Yes.
Dive into that a little bit more. Why did you choose GraphQL as a layer on top of Snowflake for this?
Yeah, so GraphQL gives us a lot of advantages for the purpose of data APIs specifically. The first thing that GraphQL gives us is the ability to ask for what we need. So in REST, you make an API request and the server sends you the whole thing. In GraphQL, you ask for what you need. So for example, in some of our APIs, we can return the data in different formats. So depending on the charting library that you use, you ask for different formats. Or maybe you want only the values, not the labels. That's one. The second thing that's super powerful about GraphQL that I'll demo in a little bit is the ability to make multiple queries in a single request. If you're loading a dashboard, for example, in a customer-facing experience, it's not one query. It's probably like 10 to 15 queries, best case, right? And if you're firing those 15 requests, that's a lot of engineering work on the client side, but it's also not very efficient. We take one HTTP request with 15 queries, and then the cloud parallelizes that to respond as quickly as possible. And then I'd say lastly about GraphQL, the strongly typed nature of GraphQL is really powerful. And let me show you. So this is the counter API, which is a counter. It's exactly what you'd imagine. And then the leaderboard, you can say, hey, give me all the top categories. We're in the sales. And the beauty of the strongly typed nature is that the developer does not have to be an expert on like how the data is modeled. They can discover, it's like, hey, yep, this is what I need. And it's super, super easy. Here in Postman, you can see, for example, typical things that you want to do in your application. Show this month's revenue compared to last month's revenue, right? These type of things are super, super easy to do with Propel. So you have a counter with 2 queries for this month, for last month, and this is the result that you get. Similarly, you have a time series API, and you see the response times are all sub-second response times, a leaderboard, where you can see all the product categories, similar to the one that we showed. You have a reports API this one is interesting. Imagine if you wanted to do a reports by salesperson or report by product category. They could be 500 product categories. So we go through the work and we give you all the pagination built in. So these details end up taking a lot of development time that developers don't have to do when they're using the Propel APIs and Snowflake. This is the query that powers that application. It's 6 different queries that we can do in one single request. And what you'll notice is like super fast load times, right? And then you get all the data that you need in one go, super, super fast in this JSON. And what we're going to do here is that we're going to wire it back up to our application. This is the code of our app. I'm just going to uncomment this, and data should be flowing here momentarily. And then when you ship something, right? First thing you get is customer feedback, right? And customer says, great, I love the dashboard, but can you show me the sales by day instead of by month, right? And typically that's a process of like, oh, we need to go back and like re-engineer the entire pipeline and talk to like all these different engineering teams and like change the job and change this and change that. With Propel, the application teams are fully in control. So you can go to a code and say, instead of granularity month, I want to do granularity day. See what the customer thinks. Like, much better, right? You can see the anonymity right away. That's exactly what we need for our customers. So you're taking a process that takes months and months down to a couple of hours.
Nico, that is fantastic. And I love seeing how easy it is to really build these high-performant dashboards of data to get that level of insight. And it's all powered by Snowflake.
Yep, absolutely.
And folks, if you want to see a full interview with myself and Nico all about the Propel platform powered by Snowflake, be sure to check it out with the link down below. My name is Daniel Myers. See you next time.